Well, we were on tour, and we went down to London, and we kind of thought that it'd be nice to sort of start afresh and kind of start over a new leaf, because we'd been called The Void since we were very, very young, like 15 or something like that, and it kind of tied us back with all the music we did back then. It doesn't really relate to what we're doing now.
Because we wrote and recorded music for years under that name, like when we were like really wee, and I guess if people we were kind of embarrassed about that. If people kind of googled us and then it still have all the old stuff as well, and we were like, oh, like stuff we did when we were like 14.
I think we weren't really comfortable with it, and you
we
can't put 100%
behind
it if you're not really comfortable with the name.
It was just a kind of, we were just mucking about in the van, thinking of
very
different
long
names.
drive back from London.
And there's nothing more than it. It was just a name, and like it just popped into our heads, and we kind of just went with it. There's no backstory to the Winter Tradition. It's just a name. At the moment, I'm quite a big fan of Manchester Orchestra. I suppose that's taken quite a big influence on your stuff. But we listen to tons of bands. Death Cab for Cutie,
Jimmy Eat World.
Yeah, they've been
massive.
Jimmy Eat World have kind of been an influence since the very start, I think.
Bands like Sigur Rós.
I'm quite a big Radiohead fan.
I think everyone goes through a stage of sounding like other bands. It just happens when you start writing songs. But I think the more you write, the more kind of your own sound you end up coming out with. I think the newer stuff definitely just we're making a new sound, which is nice.
But you always, especially if you're playing it elsewhere in Scotland, like down in England or something, you always get, you sound like Biffy Clyro. Yeah. Because you've got Scottish voices. But
yeah.
Even here.
Yeah, sometimes here, it's like, oh, it sounds like Biffy Clyro.
I just sing in my own voice. I don't think anything about it. I just sing how it comes out, and there's nothing to it really. But everyone kind of has this thing about Scottish accents being like copying other bands, but it's just singing in your own voice. I don't know why everyone else sings in American accents, but it's not really.
Glasgow's really, really tight knit. Like everyone knows each other. I guess Edinburgh's kind of the same, but just on a slightly smaller scale. Like there's a lot of places in Cowgate that everyone knows each other and stuff like that. So
It is growing though. It's getting a lot better.
Yeah, because when we were younger, playing the Edinburgh scene was like there was nothing really going on. Like there was a few good bands. Like, there's always a few good bands, but like everyone kind of, I think it's trying to be Glasgow. Not try to copy or anything like that, but I think it's pushing on.
It's different though. Like I think Edinburgh and Glasgow work well together. Like,
yeah.
You don't went to exactly the same places. It's like only minutes apart from each other.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Glasgow's got a bigger scene, which is kind of harder as well.
It's such a difference. So like I live in Glasgow at the moment, and there's such a difference between Glasgow and Edinburgh. Just in like the quality of the scene, like a lot better bands in Glasgow than there are in Edinburgh at the moment, I think. So
it does make it harder to get noticed as well though. In Glasgow, like there's a lot of good bands, so it's a lot harder to make it. But in Edinburgh, it's a little bit easier. I don't know, maybe just because we're from here, it seems a bit easier. But who knows?
I prefer playing Edinburgh.
I don't mind either. It's down to the crowd and the venue, and
I think we've always had better gigs in Edinburgh, mainly because
because
like a bass.
They can pull a bit more in Edinburgh. But
I don't really mind. People tend to be a bit rowdier in Glasgow in a good way, I think. They're just a bit more forward, I think, but it's quite fun that way. So there's tons of good venues. We always seem to have good gigs at Captain's Rest. It's absolutely tiny, but there's always a good atmosphere when you play in there. It's only like capacity of like
100, max 190.
But everyone just seems to enjoy themselves when they're there.
And Sneaky Pete's in Edinburgh is always a good one as well. I always think that is the equivalent
it's
to the Captain's Rest in
Glasgow. Our
Glasgow.
home gig.
But then there's Cabaret Voltaire is really good as well. The Liquid Rooms, when we played that years ago, that was really good. And we kind of want to go back there again since it's all been redone and stuff. But there's lots of good venues in Edinburgh.
Yeah, there's tons.
And Glasgow.
A couple of years ago when it was kind of when we first felt like we were getting our own sound, and we put on a gig at the very start of the year, and I think it's maybe not been the best gig, but it was a kind of defining gig, and it was absolutely packed, and people were singing along to our songs. It was really the first time that had happened, and it was like it was just a moment where you're kind of like, right, it's working. It's people actually like what we're doing. So I think that was probably the best. One guy came up to me after a show and told us we were redefining music, which was that was a strong statement, but I enjoyed it.
There was one guy who said we were his 37th favourite band in the world.
Yeah.
So
That's
pretty high up.
Higher than number 28.
Yeah.
We've got a tour coming up at the end of this month, end of March, and then we're going to be doing lots of practicing and stuff ready for the album, lots of promotion, and then probably more tours and
lots of gigging, I think, for this year. Once the album's out, I think we're just going to gig as much as possible. Loads and loads. It should be fun. Lots of travelling, lots of gigging.